quiz time. I know. You were not expecting to log into YouTube just to end up taking a pop quiz. There's no grade at the end of this, though. Not from me, anyway. The rules are simple. I'm going to make a statement, and you will determine if I'm referring to the Old Testament or the New. Today's theme, Joseph. On the left side of your screen, we have the Old Testament Joseph. One of 12 brothers. You'll find his story in the book of Genesis. He wore that famous coat of many colors. Well, at least until his brothers took it from him. And his life was full of unexpected twists and turns. On the right side of your screen, we have the New Testament Joseph. He is best known as his role as foster father for the Jesus of Nazareth. He would care for, teach, and raise the Lamb of God himself. Fun fact, he spoke not a word in the Bible. Not one. All right, here we go. Are you ready? This Joseph unexpectedly had to make a trip to Egypt. Old Testament Joseph or New Testament Joseph? If you guessed this Joseph, you were right. But you're also right if you guessed this Joseph. You see, this Joseph was sold into slavery to the Egyptians and therefore avoided being murdered by his brothers. This Joseph was warned to flee to Egypt to avoid his family from being murdered by the king. Both Josephs were led by God to Egypt for safety, showing us that we need to trust God on our journeys, even through difficult ones. Okay, next. This Joseph heard from God in dreams. Once again, it doesn't matter which you choose. You were right. This Joseph not only heard from God in dreams, but was also given the gift to interpret other people's dreams. Luckily for him, one of those people happened to be the Pharaoh, which not only ended up saving Joseph from the depths of Pharaoh's dungeon, but also the entire nation of Egypt from a coming famine. This Joseph was visited in a dream to assure him that Mary was telling the truth about her virgin pregnancy and to instruct him not to divorce her. This would end up saving the entire world from sin. Both men would have dreams that would reveal God's plan for them. Okay, the next one is a little more tricky. Ready? This Joseph had a father named Jacob. While you're thinking about this, if you're not already subscribed, how about heading over to that subscribe button and giving it a click? So I bet you're thinking this one, right? But you've also noticed a trend in this little quiz of mine. Am I trying to trick you? No, I'm not. They both had fathers named Jacob. Those of you familiar with the Old Testament might remember that God changed Jacob's name to Israel after a wrestling match, which, as a girl, I just don't get. My son thinks it's pretty cool, though. Anyway, his name was Jacob, and then when Matthew writes out the genealogy of Jesus, how many of us remember the name prior to Joseph? Yep, it's Jacob. Okay, one more. Something tells me you already know the answer before I even ask the question. Just play along and humor me. This Joseph was responsible for feeding the people. If you answered both, you are correct. But wait a minute. I get how this Joseph fed the people. He warned the Pharaoh of the famine, and they were able to store up food to prepare. The people of Egypt were fed, and others, even from outside of Egypt, traveled there to obtain food, including Joseph's father and brothers. But this Joseph? How did he feed the people? Well, he raised, provided for, and instructed the young boy who would later hold up bread and wine, consecrate it, declare that it was his body and blood making it so, and then instruct us to take it and eat it. In other words, Joseph would raise the bread of life, which would be given up for us. When this child was first born, Joseph would lie him in a manger, a food trough, in the town of Bethlehem, which means house of bread. I love the Bible so much. Okay, calming down. Similarities like these are all over the Bible and actually have a name. They're called typology, and they create an artistry to the Bible that often gets overlooked and missed. These typologies are no mere coincidence either. They are put there by divine plan to reveal God's glory. We might go over more in a future episode, but I thought this would be a fun start. It goes to show that God has this complicated, well-planned plan that he revealed to us through the Bible. St. Augustine once said, "The New Testament lies hidden in the Old, and the Old Testament is revealed in the New." The two Josephs we talked about here are just one example of this beautiful, true story of our salvation. If you found this at all interesting, there is so much more revealed in the Bible. I have a playlist to help you discover new ways at looking at well-known verses of the Bible. Okay, maybe not so new, but they might be new to you. You'll never know if you don't watch.